So you're going to start out by breaking your clay into shapes. You want a chunk that's big enough for your base, and then whatever you have left over is fine. You can always get more clay. So to make your base, you're going to start out with a slab, which is just a flat slab of clay, like a flat pancake. So everything you make, you want to start out with a nice, smooth, round ball of clay. So you're going to roll it out either with your hand on the mat. If it's really lumpy and bumpy, you can give it some taps to kind of get it into place as well. And you can roll it with your hands to get it nice and smooth. Once you have that, you're going to flatten it with your hand on your placemat. And then you'll roll it out into your pancake. This should be a nice, light, fluffy pancake like you would get in a restaurant. Not that first pancake that your mom or dad makes that gets all runny and it's never quite enough for you to eat. Keep flipping the clay as you roll it out so it doesn't get stuck to your placemat. And keep going until you have that light, fluffy pancake. For my mathematical people, this is going to be about 1/4 of an inch thick. So that's pretty good. It's better to be thicker than thinner. Nice, light, fluffy pancake there. Now I want it to be pretty much a perfect circle, unless you're doing some other shape for your mug. In that case, you should let me know so I can help you with that. So I'm going to put my circle template in the middle of my slab, and then I'm going to pick a tool to cut it with. So we have 2 sharp tools here. One is my needle tool. This is sharp like a needle, but it's not going to actually cut your skin just by touching it. If you leave it so that it's sticking out of your tools and you jab your hand in there, not paying attention, you can definitely hurt yourself. So you need to be very careful with this tool. This tool looks really sharp, but it's actually no sharper than a butter knife. Again, you do need to be careful with it, but just because I am touching it, it's not going to do anything to me. You're going to actually have to try to hurt yourself with this if you were going to get hurt. So be careful with all of the tools so nothing happens. But these both cut the clay very, very smoothly. Okay? I prefer the needle tool, so I'm just going to take the needle, put it down, and then trace around my circle template to get my perfect circle. And then just pull off that extra clay. Now that I have my base, I'm going to go ahead and move this over to my small board that has my paper covering it. So I can move this out of the way, and then this will let me turn my slab and things to work with it more easily as I'm building. But first I want to go ahead and make my coils. So to make a coil, again, I'm going to start with my nice smooth ball of clay. And then you want to roll it in just one direction. Now the placemat is helpful for us for making that slab, because if you try to roll out a slab on the tabletop, it's going to get stuck. But when you're rolling out the coils and you're not pushing it down so much, it's up to you if you want to use the placemat or the table. I prefer to use the table more than the placemat. The placemat tends to move on me. So to roll this coil, I'm starting in the middle and I'm moving my hands down and out. So I'm really pushing that clay to make this get longer. So a couple of concerns with making the coil. A lot of people will roll and roll and roll and roll, and then I'll hear, "Miss Mac, my coil got flat. It's no longer round." If that happens, all you're going to do is put it to the highest point, push down on it. It'll kind of get more into a square, and then start to roll again. You have to make sure that you're rolling the clay all the way around. So really push it out with your hands and then back around. And that was the problem if it started to get flat most of the time. The clay will do whatever you tell it to do. So if it's not working out, it's because you're telling it the wrong thing, and you need to look at what you are doing to tell the clay to do the right thing. Another common problem that happens is that part of the clay will get too thin and another part might be too thick. So kind of like this. So don't work on that thin part. Go to your thicker part and just work on that part for a little while. You want to get your coil about as thick. Did it just stop working? Okay. You want to get your coil about as thick as your finger, okay? So it doesn't matter how long it is, it's about the thickness. If your clay starts to get little cracks in it, that means that the clay is getting dry. So I'm just going to take a little bit of slip, put it on there, rub that in, and add some of that moisture back to my clay, and then I can keep it. So it should be an even thickness down the length of the coil. Again, about the thickness of your finger. Now I want to get this coil attached to my base. So I'm going to be working on the outside edge of my base to build up these coils. And this is the technique that the Native Americans used when they first started to make pottery. To attach pieces of clay together, you have to score and slip both parts. So on my base, I'm going to just go around my edge. Any tool with a point will work. You could use the knife, you could use a needle tool, you could use one of the wooden tools with a point, it doesn't matter. This does not need to be neat. I'm going to just go almost like I'm making little X's. Just has to be rough. Smooth clay does not like to stick to smooth clay. Think about it like your palms. Your palms are really smooth. Even if I put something, some glue in there to try to keep them together, I could eventually pull my palms back apart. So what this does is it applies grippers here, and then I'm going to apply my score marks to the coil, and then I'm going to put that glue in there. They'll smush together, and then as it dries, it'll dry into one piece that doesn't come apart. More score marks. Clay has to be rough when it's attached. Then I'm going to add my slip. Slip is just clay, and you can see some of the chunks of clay in there, and water. Give it a good stir, and then you don't want to paint this on, but you're just kind of tapping it in place because we don't want to get rid of any of those score marks that we made. We want to keep those grippers there. You only need this on one side though, since they're going to be smushed together. So then I'm going to start with my coil. I'm just going around the edge and I'm pressing down as I go. When you come to the end, you have a choice. You can score and slip the next row on, or you can cut it off and end it and then start your next row. I like this method best because it will get you a more even mug. And then I can continue, score, and slip. In the interest of time, I'm going to shorten how many of these coils I do and break this one in part just to show you a few more things. So if I want my mug to go straight up and down, then I have to be careful that I'm really putting the coils one on top of the other, so it will go straight up. If I want my mug to go in a little bit, then I need my coil to go on the inside edge of the last coil. So you can see that starting to go in. If I want my mug to get wider, then I need my coils to go on the outside edge. So it starts to get wider as it comes up. Make sure that you're always pressing down on your coils as you go around. Don't pinch the sides of your mug to get it even. If you pinch the sides of your mug, notice what is happening to my clay as I keep pinching. It's getting thinner and thinner. Now think about the weight of the clay as it gets built up. If it's too thin, down below is not going to hold up the whole mug, and eventually it can crumble and break on you. It's also going to be very uneven and wobbly. I can perform emergency surgery, but it will never be the same again. So don't pinch, just press. Okay, press your coils together. We'll take this part off because it's not going to work. Once you have your coils with 3 or 4 coils, you're going to start to blend them together. Blending is not smoothing. The tool that I like for blending together is the one that sort of looks like my spoony thumb here. And I'm going to use this flat, smooth surface to blend. Blending means I'm pushing one coil into the other coil. So I'm just going to go up and down, include my base, and get rid of all of those coil grooves that are there. And you'll notice that does not look smooth. Again, this is not the smoothing process. We'll go through the smoothing process in a later demo. And you're going to go all the way around. If you want to do the inside, you can. You have to do that after 3 coils though. It will be too difficult to get in and get down here to smooth it out. It does not have to be smoothed on the inside, but it does need to be smooth on the outside so that it's ready to go for our decoration. So again, I'm going to do another demo for the smoothing process. But since we already did the 2 steps, the 2 hand building techniques that we can use for our decoration, I'm going to go ahead and show you that part now. If it bothers you that it's really rough, you can go back with your finger and start to smooth this out a little bit. It's not going to be as smooth as I want it, but it will get it started for you. And you can already see how that is much smoother. So my next step is going to be to actually make some of my decorations. So I'm going to take, again, my nice smooth ball of clay. And you can either make a coil or a slab. Now, this coil does not need to be as thick as the coils that you did to make your mug, because this is just decoration. In fact, you don't want something as thick as the coil sticking off of your mug. So I want to make this coil much smaller. So now I have a nice little thin coil. Because it's so thinned out, I really want to wet it down before I put it into any shape that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and take my slip, run my slip over this to make it nice and wet. Then I can decide what I actually want it to look like. I think I'll do an S for this one. And then I'll cut off that extra piece of clay. I will put a few score marks on the back. Try to score it in the place that you want it. Add my slip, and then I'm going to push it on. When you're pushing on a decoration, you always want to go from the center out so that you don't trap any air under there. Now this does not have to be blended in on the sides. All we're going to do is go ahead and take a little bit of slip on our paintbrush and go around the edges with the slip to make sure that it's sealed on there. I can also do the same thing but with a slab. So again, nice smooth round ball of clay. Move this out of my way so I can work. Remember, do not make a slab on the tabletop. It will get stuck. Once I have my smooth ball of clay, I'm going to go ahead and flatten it with my hand first. And just like our S that we made, this can be a much thinner slab than what we used for the base because it's just decoration. You don't want something too thick sticking off of my mug. If you have an intricate design, you can draw it on a piece of paper first and then put the paper on top of your clay and simply trace what was there. It will come through as an impression on your clay. If you are making a letter or something more intricate, you do want to kind of draw it out first. Don't just start cutting. If you start just cutting and you mess up, you're going to have to remake your slab. If I mess up on my drawing, I can just use my finger and get rid of it. So now I can draw that back on. When you're cutting the clay, you always want to cut from the center out. You don't want to be going into your center part. Now that I have my drawing done, I can go around and cut all of these lines to cut out my shape. Pull away that extra clay, and I have a nice little M left. So again, score, slip, and then that can also go on. It's more important with the slab pieces to start in the center and work your way out, pressing it on so that no air gets trapped in there. Okay, once we finish the whole mug, this is going to need to sit out to dry before it can get fired. So it has to dry for about a week, and then I'll be able to fire it for you. And then we can come back to glazing it so that it's ready to actually eat or drink out of.